Okay, year 8, this is one of your two maths lessons. You're going to need some paper, a pencil, a pen and your brain. We are going to start, as we always do, with a starter task. In this case, it's the Colby Maths 5 a day. You've seen these before, you know what to do, so pause the video, have a go at the questions, and we'll go through some answers in a second. Okay, here are the answers. So again, just pause the video, have a quick check to see how you've got on, and we'll get on to the main task today. Okay, so let's have a look at this task then. So it says that Kim created a spinner game to play with her friend Mark. The rules of the games are you need to decide who will play for odds and who will play for even products. You need to spin the spinners and multiply the two numbers together. If the product is odd, then the odd player wins a point, and if the product is even, then the even player wins the point. Just remember, when we talk about products, we're talking about multiplying two numbers together. So Mark wants to know if the game is fair. So the question to you guys is the game fair? Have a little think, maybe make some notes, do some calculations or something. Pause the video and we'll see how you get on in a minute. Okay, so Mark wanted to know if the game is fair. So is the game fair? This is the way I would work it out. You may have come up with something different, but I'm just going to do the sums, do the maths and see how it comes out. So the first thing is I've said that Kim is going to be odd and Mark is going to be even. Doesn't matter if you've done it the different way around. And just consider what would happen when we spin the spinners. So the first thing you could get on the first spinner is a 1. And then we're going to times that by the logical first thing on the second spinner. We're going to go in order, so I'm going to say 5. So 1 times 5 is 5. That's odd, so we're going to put a tally for Kim. The next thing that could happen is you could do 1 times 6, which is 6. Now that's even, so we're going to do a tally for Mark. The next thing that could happen is you could do 1 times 7. So 1 times 7 is 7. That's odd, so we're going to go over to Kim. And the last one is 1 times 8 is 8. That's even, so we're going to go over to Mark. Okay, I've worked the rest of them out here. I'm not going to sit and work them all out now and kind of waste your time, but this is what I came up with. So this is the second set. This is your 2 times, this is your 3 times, and this is your 4 times. Feel free to work those out yourself if you want. But as you can see, there are far more evens than odds. So I would say the game definitely isn't fair, but in this case, Mark looks out because he wins. Okay then, so let's have a look at this, and it's looking at what is chance. So in terms of maths, in terms of probability, we can sometimes talk about chance. And we use these type of descriptive words here. So we say things are probable, some things are certain, very likely, unlikely. And we can apply these words to lots and lots of different probability or chance questions. If we have a look at these specifically, so we've got one here, what is the chance of Saturday following Friday? Well, that's definitely going to happen. Saturday always comes after Friday, so we can mark that with a cross at 1, and we would say that is certain. The reason we mark it at 1 is that if something has a probability of 1, then it's definitely guaranteed to happen. If we have a look at this one, what is the chance of Christmas Day being in June? Well, that's not going to happen, is it? Christmas Day is always in December, so we would say that is impossible, and we would mark that with a cross at 0, because 0 means it's definitely not going to happen. And the last one then, so what is the chance of winning the lottery? Well, it could happen. Somebody wins every so often, but it's very unlikely that you would win. So it's not impossible, because like I say, some people do win, but we're going to mark that really low and say that it is sort of very unlikely that would happen. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is we're going to have a look at some questions. So what I'd like you to do again is have a go at these 2 questions, pause the video, have a go like I said, and then we'll do some answers in a second. Okay, so the answers to the first 2 questions then. The first one is yellow. The yellow is the biggest sector, so it's going to land on the yellow. And the second one, you're going to have marked it at 0 because there is no green at all, so the chances is 0. And the second set, if we have a look at those, chance of a newborn baby being a girl, well, that's going to be even because it's about a 50-50 split. And the chance that you throw an ordinary dice and get a 2 is going to be unlikely because it's only a 1 out of 6 chance. Okay, so let's have a look at some more probabilities and how they can be written, how you can work them out. So probabilities can be written as a fraction. What is the probability of a coin landing on tails? Okay, well the answer is it's a half, but we need to think of why the answer is a half. So if we look at the number on the bottom first, that is the number of possible outcomes. So there are 2 ways that this coin could land if you flip it. It's going to land on heads or it's going to land on tails. So the number on the bottom is going to be, in this case, is going to be 2. If we think about the number on top, well, we're only looking at tails, so there's only one thing we're looking for. So the number on top is what we're looking for. The number on the the number on the bottom is the total number of outcomes. So that's why in this case, a coin landing on tails is 1/2. If we look at these questions, so these are a little bit more difficult. So the spinner has 8 equal divisions. What is the probability the spinner lands on a blue sector? Well, there's 1 blue sector out of 8 possible sectors, so the answer is going to be, I hope you're thinking, is 1/8. If we'll talk about landing on a red or a green, okay, well that's a little bit more difficult because we've got 2 things now, but red or green, there are 6 of those, aren't there? 2 reds, 4 greens, so 6 out of a possible 8 would be the answer there, 6/8. And the probability of a spinner not landing on green, well, not green, there are 4 that aren't green, so that's going to be 4/8. Okay, there's going to be a page of questions coming up now. What I suggest you do is, again, pause the video, have a go at the questions, and I will be back with the answers in a second. Okay, the answers to the next questions then. The probability of a number less than 7 being thrown, well, a dice only goes to 6, so that's going to be guaranteed. That's one here. A 6 is thrown when you got a 1 in 6 chance of that happening, so that's a low chance, so that's going to be B. And an odd number is thrown, that's going to be 50-50 because half the numbers on a dice are odd, so that's going to be this one in the middle. Okay, the next set of questions then, you have the following cards are in the box. So what's the probability of the card? Sorry, the number on the card is 3. Well, 1 out of the 6 is 3, so it's going to be 1/6. And an odd number, well, there are 3 odds out of 6 cards, so that's going to be 3/6. And then if we just have a look at the last set of questions, or the last question, sorry, the most likely letter the arrow will land on, well, we've got, sorry, let's move that down, we've got 3 out of the spinners is A, so that's going to be the most likely. The probability it lands on a B, well, there's 2 B's out of 8, so that's going to be 2 out of 8. And the probability it lands on an A, well, there's 3 out of 8 are A's, so that's going to be 3/8. Okay, so we've already seen that the probability of something certain to happen is 1, and all probabilities have to add up to 1, so you can't have probabilities higher than 1. If 1 is certain, there's nothing beyond certain, so all our probabilities have to add up to 1. So if we have this question here, so if we have a bag and it contains red, green and blue balls, and the probability of picking a red ball is 0.1, okay, don't worry about the fact we're in decimals now, it just kind of makes it easier to add up, it doesn't matter. So the probability of a red ball is 0.1, the probability of a green ball is 0.6, so the question is what would be the probability of picking a blue ball? So the probability of picking a red or a green, we're going to add those two together, so that's going to be 0.7. And if we're saying that all probabilities have to add up to 1, then we can work out the probability of a blue ball by just doing 1 take away 0.7 is 0.3. Okay, and that's in general how these questions are done. They all need to add up to 1. So we've got 2 pages of questions now. So what I suggest you do is pause the video as normal after the first set of questions, and then have a go at those. I'll come back with some answers, then we'll do the second set of questions, and that will be it. Okay, so there's the first set of questions. Pause the video and I'll be back with some answers. Okay, question 6 then. It says the box contains 6 blue pens, 8 black pens and 3 red pens. The probability you'll pick a blue, there are 17 pens in total, so it's going to be 6 out of 17. The probability you'll pick a green, well, there are no greens, so it can't happen, so that's just going to be 0. And some more blue pens are added to the box. The probability is now a half. So there has to be the same number of blue pens as the other pens in total. So if there are 11 black and red pens, there has to be 11 blue pens for the probability to be a half, which means you would have had to add another 5. If we have a look at question 7, it's about the roses. So what's the probability that Elizabeth chooses a rose that's red or, either yellow or white? Well, you add those two probabilities together, so that's 0.3. The probability she chooses a red rose, well, we said that probabilities have to add up to 1, so that would have to be 0.7 for it to add up to 1. And if there were 10 roses in the bunch originally, how many of them were red? Well, that is going to be 7. You do 10 times 0.7 is 7, so there were 7 reds. Okay, here's the second set of questions. As before, just pause the video and I will be back with some answers in a second. Okay, question 8. The probability the brown counted is chosen from the bag is 0.13. So if you do 400 times 0.13, you get 52. So that tells you there's 52 brown counters. If you add that to the 92 yellow counters that we know, you get 144 counters. If you do 400, take away 144, you get 256. So we know there are 256 green counters. Question 9. This tells you you've got some probabilities here of different colours. So if you add up the ones you know, 0.34, 0.1 and 0.12, you get 0.56. We know that all probabilities have to add up to 1. So if you do 1 take away 0.56, you get 0.44. So the probability of these two is 0.44, but you're told they're equal. So if you divide by 2, you get 0.22. And lastly, question 10. The first thing is, again, all probabilities have to add up to 1. So if you add up 0.4, 0.35, take it away from 1, you get 0.25. So that's the missing value. And then with the how many points they get, so if they play 20 games and they win 0.4 as a probability, then they would win 8 games. If they play 20 games and with a 0.35 chance of a draw, they would draw 7 by multiplying those two. If you get 2 points for a win, you do 8 times 2 is 16. 1 point for a draw, 7 times 1 is 7. If you add those two up, they would get 23 points. Okay folks, so last question. It's a bit of a challenge question. Just have a go at this one again. Pause the video, see how you get on, and I will be back with some answers after this. Last question, the challenge question. There are 5 cards, we know 2 of them. The probability of a 7 is 2 over 5, so we know that 2 of the cards have to be a 7, so that's why I've put a 7 there. It tells you that 3 of the cards out of the 5 is odd, or are odd, so there's my 3 odd numbers. These 2 have to be even. It does tell me that I can't have a 2 because the probability of a 2 is 0, so the next even number is 4, and if the range of the numbers is 10, then this number would have to be 14. The difference between the biggest and smallest is 10. Thank you for watching, particularly those people who stuck it out to the end.
That's all, folks.